suppose you have this multiplication and you have to find the product of these three numbers. Now you have these three numbers, minus 25, 37 and 4. Now one way to find the multiplication is that you go on and you multiply 25 by 37, and whatever you get after that multiplication, then you multiply that product with 4. So in case if you have to do 25 and 37, you will do 25 times 37. You first multiply this, right? And whatever you will get here, then you will multiply this by 4 in order to get this result. Now that's little bit time taking, right? Because that's a lengthy process. Remember that the commutative property, the associative property, right? If you remember, if you don't remember, then if you don't know these properties, then we have separate video lectures on them. So the basic requirement to understand this video is that you should have proper understanding of the commutative associative properties. Now if you remember that by commutative property we mean that if A times B is there, then it's equal to B times A, right? This is the commutative property. And not only by it can be like A times B times C also. Okay, so A times B times C, it will be equal to C times B times A, or C times A times B, whatever, right? So the commutative property says that if A times B is there, then it's equal to B times A, right? And then you have this one like A times B times C, then C times B times A, or C times A times B. This is also true for commutative property. What for associative property? The associative property says that suppose you have A times B times C, then this will be equal to A times B if you group it together and then multiply C, right? What does that mean by this grouping together? You first find the product of these two numbers, and then whatever you get from the multiplication of these two numbers, you will finally multiply with the C here. Or it can be equal to A times B times C. Okay, so even you can group it together also. So what does that mean? That you will multiply A with the product of B times C. Okay, so that's what commutative and associative property is actually. So using these properties, you can solve this multiplication very quickly. How? If you use the associative and commutative properties here, and if you do it like this, minus 25 times 4, and do this one, then multiply 37. So this is the associative property. Like I can group together, I can group together or arrange the numbers according to my need, right? So that my calculation becomes easier. And you will be thinking that how come our calculation becomes easier using here the associative property? So the answer is that if you look at properly, then 25 times 4 is 100, right? It will give you 25 times 4 will become 100. So since minus sign is here, so minus 100 times 37. Now you can easily get minus 3700 as the answer or the product. So if you would have followed the first way, that was first you have to multiply 25 by 37, and that would have required a lot of time. And in contrast or opposite of that is this process or this step where you using the associative property, you group together 25 and 4, and you first found you try to find out the product of 25 and 4, and if you multiply 25 by 4 you'll get 100, and when you multiply 100 with 37 you'll get 3700. That was really very quick, right? Quicker in comparison to this one. Let's move to the next question, and that is minus 18 times minus 10 times 9. Here again you can use the associative property to make your calculation easier. So one way could be that you first multiply this one, like either you can do minus 18 times, you group together minus 10 and 9, right? So this will give you minus 18 times this will give you minus 90. This will give you minus 90, and if you multiply these two numbers, then you'll get, so 9 8 72 and 7 9 1 6 2 0, and this minus sign is here. So those of you who can't do it, it's 18 times 9, so 72, then 7 is 162, so 162, and then you're 0 here. Or another way could be that you first group together minus 18 and minus 10, and then sorry, here you will get the positive sign because you have 2 minus here, okay. So you first group together minus 18 and minus 10, and then you multiply this with 9, and this will give you 180 times 9, and this will give you 0 8 72 7 and this 1620. This answer and this answer, both these two are equal, and we just use the associative property. When the first step, that was the first step, we group together 10 and 9, and in the second step we group together 18 and 10. Okay, so that was the basic difference there, and both are giving the same answer. Which one is quicker? I mean, both these two steps are almost will take similar same amount of time. Now here it's minus 20 times minus 2 times minus 5 times 7. Now how would you do this? So I mean, always look at the numbers and see, is there any way that we can multiply and get something, a number having 0 at the units place? So if you look closely and properly, then you can see that if you multiply 2 by 5, you'll get 10. Okay, so why not go with that? So do it here. This will be minus 20 using the associative property. This is minus 2 and this is minus 5, and then it's 7. This is the associative property because we have grouped together 2 and 5. Then this will be minus 20. This will give you 10 because you have 2 minus here, and this will give you 7. Now what? You can either group together minus 20 times 10 using the associative property and then 7, or the another way could be that minus 20 and you group together 10 and 7. This will give you minus 20 times 70 will give you minus 1400. Even this will give you minus 200 times 7, and this will give you minus 1400. Both the answers are same, right? So both the answers are same here, minus 1400, here minus 1400. This was the first one where we grouped together 20 and 10. This was the second one where we grouped together 10 and 7. Okay, so this is the last one. Here you have 1, 5, 4 and 6. So what can you do? What can you do to make it, anyways, these are very small numbers, like there is no 2-digit or 3-digit numbers in this question. So what you can do is, just simply proceed, like group together 1 and 5. So minus 1 and minus 5, and then you group together minus 4 and minus 6. This will give you 5, and this will give you 24, and your final result will be 5, 4, 20, 2, 5, 2, 10 and 120. So this will be your answer. And even you can group together, like you can do this way also. You can, this is the second step. So minus 1 times group together minus 5 and minus 4, and then you have minus 6, and this will give you minus 1 times 20 times 6 minus 6. Now what? Now you can group together minus 1 times 20, and then minus 6. This will give you minus 20 times minus 6, and this will give you minus, sorry, not minus, this will give you plus, and this will be 120. So this one was a little bit longer because here you are making two separate groupings. Like first you did for 5 and 4, then you did for 1 and 20, but in this case you made two groups in one single step. Like you group together 1 and 5 and you group together 4 and 6 in a single step. That's why it reduced your number of steps, and that's why you got the answer quickly in this case in comparison to this one. You can go with any of the options, but this one was a quicker. So it needs a lot of practice actually to, you know, just look at the multiplication and think that, and try to observe that what can we do to, you know, find a product or the addition very quickly. What arrangements can we make? So for that, the concept of associativity, the concept of commutativity, the concept of distributivity of multiplication, addition or subtraction, whatever, these things should be, you know, like should be hardwired in your brain. Like it should be coded in your brain. You can quickly, you know, just recollect those formulas, those methods, those properties, and you can apply in your question. So mathematics is all about, you know, practice, 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 and it will always make you better, not perfect. Practice will always make you better, not perfect. This is 16 times 12. Okay, so the one way could be that, okay, so you go on multiplying like this and then you find the answer, okay, whatever it is. Is there any quicker way, like we saw in the case of the first part, in the part 1 of the video series? So if you look this number, and if I write it like this, that this is 16 times 10 plus 2. I can write 12 as 10 plus 2, and this will become, now this is 16 times 10 plus 16 times 2. Now could you tell what property we have actually used here? Pause and think over it. Now this is the distributive property of multiplication over addition. This is the multiplication, so this is the distribution of multiplication over addition, of multiplication over addition. So this is multiplication, we are distributing it over addition, and that's why we got this one. So this is the distributive property. And those of you who don't know this distributive property, then please follow the video lecture on the same, like distributive property of multiplication. We have a separate video for that. Now if we solve this, this will be 160 plus 32, and this will give you 192. So this is one way. There can be another way for doing this. You can write it down 16 as 10 plus 6, and then you multiply this by 12. Again, this is, since addition is grouped together and we have multiplication here, we have multiplication here, and we have addition here. Addition is enclosed within a bracket, that is, it's grouped together, so it's again distributive property of multiplication over addition. This is the distributive property of multiplication over addition. And those of you who are getting confused, you can write it like this. This can be 12 times 10 plus 6. How? We used the commutative property that says that if A times B is there, then this will be equal to B times A. And that's exactly it is. So this is A times B, we can write it B times A. That's both are equal, right? So either you can skip this step, those who are very clear with this one, what we have to do, and straight jump to this step. Like this will be using distributive property of multiplication or addition. This will give you 12 times 10 plus 12 times 6, this will give you 120, this will give you 72, and this will give you 192. So both these answers are correct. Those of you who are not, we're getting confused how we are using distributive property here, you can write it like this, and to write this we use the commutative property of multiplication, and then you can derive all other steps, and finally you will get the same answer in both the cases, whether you are using this first step or the second step. Let's move to the next one. This is minus 23 and 48. Can we do anything to make this multiplication easier? Then the first step is like, that would be a very normal step, that you multiply 48 times 23, right? So then you can get the answer. That's not a quicker way. What can be the quicker way? So this will be minus 23 times 48. You can write 48 as 50 minus 2. Are you clear with that? 50 minus 2 will give you 48. So this will make 23 times 50, and this will give you, since you have minus sign here and we are using the distributive property of multiplication over subtraction. Why? Because we have multiplication here and within the bracket we have a subtraction. So this will be multiplication, distributive property of multiplication over subtraction, and that's why this minus sign will be here, and then you have minus 23 and times 2. We have put this minus sign here. Now if you solve this, this will give you 5 3 15, and then minus 115, and then this is minus, if you multiply minus 23 by 2, you'll get minus 46. Now this will be minus 115, and since outside the bracket you have minus sign, inside the bracket you have minus sign, so these two minus will become positive, and you have 46. And if you solve this, how much you'll get? You can subtract this. Since this is a bigger, the greater value, so of course you'll get there will be a minus sign in the answer. And if you subtract 115 from 46, you'll get 54, 59, and 69. So minus 69. This will be the answer. Now let's move to the next one. Minus 35 times minus 98. Think over it, pause the video and think how can you do some arrangements, whether using associative property, whether using commutative property, whether using distributive property, any one of those properties, or using all of those properties. What arrangements can you do to make your multiplication easier? Pause it and think over it. Now let's solve this. So this will be minus 35 times, this is minus 98. So since this is minus 98, you will do minus 100 plus 2. And why we are doing this minus 100 plus 2? It will make our multiplication easier. Using distributive property of multiplication over addition or subtraction, we can make our multiplication easier. So minus 100, because this is minus 98, and of course if you would have done 100 minus 2, then that would have given you 98, but we need minus 98, that's why minus 100 plus 2. And then using distributive property of multiplication over subtraction or over addition, this will give you minus 35 times minus 100. Then you have this plus sign here, and then you have minus 35 times 2. If you solve them, this will give you 3500, and then you have this 70, and then sorry, this not 35, this is 3500, and this is 70. Sorry, this is minus sign here, this is minus sign here, because minus 35 times 2 will be minus 70, and you have plus sign here, that's why you'll get minus sign here, and this will be how much if you subtract 3500 from 70, subtract 70 from 3500, this will give you, this is 0 here, and this will give you 3 and 3430, right? So you'll get 3430 as the answer. So this is the answer for this one. Again, what we did, we made minus 98 as minus 100 plus 2, then we used distributive property of multiplication over addition, and following these steps we got the answer 33,430. Now you have this question. Now observe this question very properly and focus on this, and you will find that you have 52 and here minus 52, as these are common. Okay, these are common numbers, but here you have a minus sign with the 52. So what we can do is, we can write it like this. This is 52, this is times minus 8, right? So either you can write it like this, you can write it, here it is minus 52 times 2, so you can write it like 52 and times minus 2, because in any of these cases, whether you multiply minus 52 with 2 or you multiply 52 with minus 2, you'll get the same answer. That means if it's minus a times b, then this will be equal to a times minus b. There will be no difference in the answer. You can adjust your multiplication sign. Or there can be second step. You get those who are getting confused in this one, though there's no point, there's no proper point, there's no point of getting confused here, but still you can write it like 52 times this 8, and then you can write it like minus 1 times 52 times 2. What we did, we wrote 52 as minus 1 times 52, right? Both are same thing, because if you multiply minus 1 with 52, you'll get minus 52. And then like here you can proceed, take 52 as common. You take 52 as common. It's common, you take it out, and then this is multiplication, and then this is minus 8, and then you have minus 2, right? This 52 here, this 52 here, and in between this addition sign was there. So this was just the distributive property of multiplication or addition, and 52 was common here, and you can clearly say this. We can write it like this one. And for this one, it will be again take 52 out, and then times here, this is minus 8, and this is plus, this is minus 1 times 2, right? Solve this one. So this will be 52 times minus 10, and this will give you minus 520. This will be 52 times minus 8. You have 2 times minus 1 will be minus 2, therefore plus minus 2. This will be 52 times minus 8 minus 2, 52 times minus 10. This will give you minus 520, and both these answers are same, right? So these were the two steps that you can follow. Sorry, this was anyways, you can take it anyone, first or second, anyone. So these are the two steps for the same multiplication, and in following those steps you can clearly see that you are getting the same answer. In a class test, containing 15 questions. 14 marks are given for every correct answer and -2 marks are given for every incorrect answer. So the first part of this question is Gurpreet attempts all questions but only 9 of her answers are correct. What is her total score? And the second part of this question is one of her friends gets only 15 answers correct. What will be her score? So 15 is the total number of questions, and if you attempt a right question, if you give a right answer of the question, you will be awarded 4 marks. And if you attempt a question and if you give incorrect answer, then you will be awarded -2 marks. The first part of this question is that Gurpreet attempts all questions, that is she attempted 15 questions, all questions, and out of which she can only give 9 correct answers, that is only 9 answers are correct. So 9 answers are correct, that is there are 9 questions that she attempted correctly, and therefore how many incorrect answers or how many incorrectly attempted questions were there? Incorrect answers. So 15 is the total number of questions and 9 answers are correct, that is she attempted 9 questions correctly. Therefore the incorrect one will be 15 minus 9, that is 16 answers were incorrect. Now for every correct answer she will be awarded 4 marks. So she attempted 9 questions correctly, therefore she will be awarded 4 marks for the 9 questions. For 9 questions, for 1 she will be awarded 4, and since she attempted 9 questions correctly, therefore for 9 this will be 9 times 4, and that is what we have written here. Plus, why plus? Because we are counting for this whole 15 questions, that is for all of the 15 questions, for all of these 15 questions. So 9 times 4 for the correct answer, and for the incorrect one is she attempted 6 questions incorrectly, so 6 times -2. Why? Because for 1 question attempted incorrectly she will be awarded -2 marks. Therefore for 6 questions attempted incorrectly she will be awarded 6 times -2. That is what we have written here. This will give you 9 times 4 is 36 plus 6 times 2 is -12, and this will give you 36 minus 12, and the answer will be 24, right? So 24 will be her total score. Now the second part of this question, one of her friends gets only 5 answers correct. So 15 total number of questions attempted and 5 questions are correctly attempted, therefore incorrect questions, therefore number of incorrect answers or incorrectly attempted questions, incorrect answers will be 15 minus 5, just what we did here in the first question part. This will be 10. So 5 questions were attempted correctly and 10 questions were attempted incorrectly, and therefore for all 15 questions, if you check for all the 15 questions, since she attempted 5 questions correctly, therefore since for every single question she will be awarded 4 marks, therefore for 5 questions attempted correctly she will be awarded 5 times 4. So 5 times 4 plus for every single question that was attempted incorrectly she will be awarded -2, and therefore for 10 questions attempted incorrectly, she will be awarded 10 times minus 2. Therefore 10 times minus 2. This will give you 20 plus 10 times minus 2 is minus 20, and the answer for this one will be 20 minus 20, and she will get 0 marks. That is, her score will be 0. A certain freezing process requires that room temperature be lowered from 40 degrees Celsius at the rate of 5 degrees Celsius every hour. What will be the room temperature 10 hours after the process begins? It's saying that at some initial stage, your room's temperature is 40 degrees Celsius. It's 40 degrees Celsius, and once you start some certain freezing process or certain freezing system is switched on, so at the end of every 1 hour, that is by every 1 hour, your room's temperature will be lowered by 5 degrees Celsius. That's what rate is. Rate is that after every 1 hour, your room's temperature will be lowered by 5 degrees Celsius. It's asking that what will be the room's temperature after 10 hours? What will be the room temperature after 10 hours? So it's simple. Let me explain you like this. Suppose this 40 degrees Celsius, and this is your initial stage when your temperature was 40 degrees Celsius. 40 degrees Celsius. At this initial stage, it was 40 degree. After 1 hour, your temperature will be lowered by 5 degrees Celsius, right? It's lowered by 5 degrees. After another 1 hour, so suppose the next stage was here, right? So after another 1 hour, it will again be lowered by 5 degrees Celsius. After another 1 hour, if you take this as a stage, after another 1 hour, it will again be lowered by 5 degrees Celsius. So 5 degree, 5 degree, 5 degree. That's what it's asking, that what will be the room's temperature after 10 hours. So after 1 hour, it was 5 degree. So someone say that, okay, what will be the total drop in temperature after 2 hours? That is from here to here. This is 1 hour, this is 1 hour, that is 2 hours. 2 hours. So someone may ask that, what's the total drop in temperature after 2 hours? So you will say that, okay, 5 plus 5, right? So that's what, after 2 hours, it will be 2 times 5. Why? Because 5 plus 5. For 1 hour 5, for another 1 hour 5, that's for 2 times 5. So someone will ask, okay, what will be after 3 hours from the initial stage? So you will say that after 3 hours, it will be from here. What will be the total drop? The drop will be from here to here. That is 1 hour plus 1 hour plus 1 hour, that is 3 hours. That is 3 hours. And what's it for every 1 hour? That is drop is of 5 hours, of 5 degree. So this drop will be 15 degree from the initial stage, and in this case it was 10 degree. How? This 5 plus 5. In this case 5 plus 5 plus 5, that is 15. So someone may ask that, okay, what will be the drop in temperature from the initial stage, total drop in temperature from the initial stage after 4 hours? After 4 hours. So you will say that, okay, after 4 hours it will be like, in this case here, another 5 degrees Celsius temperature drop after 1 hour. So for 4 hours it will be 1 hour plus 1 hour plus 1 hour plus 1 hour, that is 4 hours. 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. And therefore 4 times, let me take with this color. For 4 hours it will be 4 times 5, that is 20 degrees Celsius. That is a temperature drop. This is telling you temperature drop. This 5 degree was temperature drop. This again temperature drop. This again a temperature drop. So after 1 hour your temperature drop will be 5 degree. After 2 hours your temperature drop will be 10 degrees. After 3 hours your temperature drop will be 15 degrees. After 4 hours your temperature drop will be 20 degree. So by the end of 10 hours, how much will be temperature get dropped? So if you follow the same pattern, that is for the 2 hours, it's 2 times, like for the first hour it was 1 times 5, that is 5 degrees Celsius temperature drop. For the 2 hours it will be 2 times 5, that is 10 degrees Celsius. After 3 hours it will be 3 times 5, that is 15 degrees Celsius drop. After 4 hours the temperature drop will be 20 degrees Celsius temperature drop, going by this pattern. After 10 hours the total temperature drop will be 50 degrees Celsius. 50 degrees Celsius. Now notice, these are the temperature drop, that is by this amount our temperature has dropped, but this is not telling the room temperature. It's telling by what value our room's temperature has dropped. So this is dropped by 50 degrees Celsius. So your initial temperature was 40 degrees Celsius. After 10 hours your room temperature has dropped by 50 degrees Celsius. So someone will ask, okay, then what's the room temperature? If it has dropped by 50 degrees Celsius, then what's the room temperature? You will say that the room temperature will be, since it was initially it was 40 degrees Celsius, now our temperature has dropped from 40 to by 50 degrees Celsius. It has dropped by 50 degrees Celsius. So this will be minus 10 degrees Celsius will be my room temperature. So whatever freezing system we have used, it is dropping temperature by 5 degrees Celsius after every 1 hour. So by the end of 10 hours the temperature dropped in the room will be 50 degrees Celsius. Therefore the room temperature will be 40, that was initial, dropped by 50, that is it has dropped by 50 by after 10 hours. Therefore my room temperature is now 10 degrees Celsius.